Welcome to Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And today, in our first review episode of college football, we will be diving into every aspect of Week 9, was it?
It was week 9,
Week
yes.
9.
I forgot to update the thing on
It's
the
all
rundown.
good. Week 9.
That's on me. I'll get that fixed.
I'll get that triggered. Week 9 of the college football season. We got a lot to talk about. No Florida game this week, so a little bit shorter than usual. But, Tyler, let's just go ahead and start with quick hits. Our quick hits for today is simply just our fantasy football update for our collegiate teams. Tyler, what had happened for you this past week in fantasy, my friend?
It was not a good week for me.
Yikes.
Coming off an emotional rivalry win over my father, Bucky's the best team, I ran into Frank's is Trash, which is friend of the pod, Courtney Mims. Verified on Twitter, friend of the pod, Courtney Mims.
Yes, head of your sports department.
Yeah, who forgot to check her lineup, so she has two players that aren't even playing in, and I lost by 60 points. Do you want to know how?
I would like to know how.
I scored 192 points. I had a good effort. But Courtney had Justin Fields who scored 33 points.
Yeah.
Good. Khalil Tate scored 37 and a loss.
Ooh.
But that wasn't even – look at these Pac-12 running backs. 26 points from Max Borghi. 57 points from Joshua Kelly, the UCLA running back. 62 points from C.J. Verdell, the Oregon running back. I didn't even have a terrible week. I just had a lot of backups in because it was one of the – like week 9 is one of those kind of bye week for a lot of different teams. For like you'll notice if you go through like the college schedule that like a third of the teams will have bye weeks on like these 3 different weeks.
Yeah.
And this was one of them, and I don't understand. I just got really unlucky.
You're going to hate my fantasy football update because I, like friend of the pod, Courtney Mims, fun fact, first ever guest on the pod, Courtney Mims, forgot to check my lineup as well. And God is good because not checking my lineup, I scored 205 points and beat Greer's Cocaine, who is your coworker, correct?
Yes.
Your coworker, Greer's Cocaine. And I didn't even have a second wide receiver in. So, God's plan, Travis Etienne.
I hate you so freaking much right
Travis Etienne with 41.7 points. Kellen Mond with 51.5 points for me. CeeDee Lamb, 26 points. It was good. It was good for me. So, I'm not going to go any further. I'm not going to rub it in. I'm currently still in 4th. Still in that final playoff spot. We'll see how it goes. We will have a fantasy football update for our NFL teams on Wednesday's pod, which will be our weekly preview pod. We have finished up with all the games with the exception of the Sunday night game and, of course, the primetime magical must-see television that is the Miami Dolphins traveling to Pittsburgh to play the mighty, mighty Steelers with their, looks at roster, 3rd string quarterback in, maybe 2nd string. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
And then the Miami Dolphins with their like 5th and 6th string quarterbacks.
You know what? I think if we could find a 7th or 8th string, I'd like to play them. Let's go ahead and move forward.
I can't believe that's national television.
I can't believe it either. I think it's required that every team have one primetime game, whether it be Sunday or Monday night, and because the NFL is still mad at ESPN for criticizing Goodell with the whole Ray Rice stuff. They're like, forget it. We're going to give you the worst games possible. And that's how we end up with...
I mean, you get a pass for Pittsburgh because no one knew that Rodgers was going to get injured. But Miami was like openly like, we're tanking.
Yeah, we like waved the white flag before the draft. It was weird. Anyway, let's move forward to our bread and butter, college football. Let's talk about these games that we had. Tyler, let's go ahead and jump into rapid reactions. Rapid reactions is when we go ahead and we take at maximum 1 minute per game of the biggest games of the week that we did not cover in 5 Wide, which we will talk about in a second. Tyler is making an edit to this, and I am thanking him because this is what I wanted to lead off with. Tyler, go ahead and set that timer for 1 minute.
The timer is set.
I'm telling you right now, we're going to go over for this first one, but that's okay. We'll make up later on.
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1. Tyler, I'd like to formally announce that I am selling tickets on the Kansas Jayhawks bandwagon.
I'm right there with you, baby.
Please jump on board. We are co-conducting this train. The hype train is real.
It's amazing. I'm plugging coal into the engine.
It's beautiful.
Carter Stanley out here looking like an NFL quarterback.
Look at just dropping dimes left and right.
The Kansas home field advantage coming into play.
Puka looks like 06 LaDainian Tomlinson out there. Like, we are running this thing. For those who don't know, Kansas winning in the most Les Miles way of all time. Let me paint the picture for you guys. They are tied at 34, I apologize, at the end of the game. Kansas goes to kick what is a 41-yard field goal. It gets blocked. Texas Tech recovers it, running to try to scoop and score to win the game. The Texas Tech player then inexplicably laterals the football to try to have one of those ESPN Films miracle.
If they don't score here, the time's going to run out.
But they go to overtime at the very least.
Yeah.
So then what happens is they fumble. Kansas offensive lineman recovers that said fumble after a blocked extra point, keep in mind, to then set up another, with 2 seconds left on the clock, to then set up another potential game-winning field goal.
This one only from like 30 yards away.
That is then 8 yards closer than before. And of course,
it's just a change of possession. It's a first down with 3 seconds left.
And it's a closer field goal.
Kansas kicks the game winner.
And of course, Kansas's kicker, ice water in his veins, because he's a Kansas Jayhawk, just like Tyler and I are.
Rock chalk, baby.
Jayhawk, baby. Les Miles.
Brent Dearman, the Kansas offensive coordinator, you better stay with Les Miles forever. I don't understand how Les Miles somehow now, when he's at Kansas, he's at Kansas, he's probably like, I have nothing left to lose. So I'm actually gonna update my offense.
It's the literal definition of, I have rotten fruit, I'm gonna throw it against the wall and see what sticks. The literal definition of just, let's see what happens. It's incredible. It's just incredible. I thank you for turning off a timer because you knew we were going to go over it.
I just turned it off. Yeah, that was way more than a minute. Let's actually go in. Let's move on to another something good happening to another Kansas team. We'll actually use the timer now. 3, 2, 1, go. The Kansas State Wildcats upset the Oklahoma Sooners, and Sergio's got his arms crossed. He is upset, and you know what? Good on Oklahoma. They were fighting. They had a thing, but you just can't stop that power rushing attack of the Kansas State Wildcats, who scored on, I believe, at one point 8 straight possessions in this game. Oklahoma's wearing that throwback unis on defense, that throwback to when they were terrible.
That was mean.
Well, I mean, no. This Oklahoma team is still really good. I hate every time this happens to a team that's undefeated, people are like, they lose, they get upset. People are like, oh, they're eliminated from the playoff. No, they're not. If Oklahoma wins every game from here on out, they're not.
Well, I had a conversation with
one loss is not a big deal.
Yeah, I had a conversation with my brother today.
This is a good Kansas State team.
Yeah, I had a conversation with my brother today, and he said, oh, our playoff chances are over. And I said, no, not really, dude, because if you run the table in the Big 12, you win the championship, and a lot of things can happen in the teams above you. The AP poll came out, and they're ranked at 10. So they're still in the top 10. They can still move up.
And we'll see what happens. Let's move on.
Shout out to Kansas State's head coach changing the program there. Yeah. Keep it moving. Penn State taking care of business against Michigan State. There was nothing pretty about this game, Tyler.
Absolutely nothing. But credit Penn State. This is typically a game playing Michigan State after an emotional home win over Michigan. Mm-hmm. This would be typically a spot where not just Penn State, but any team would fall apart.
Right.
And lose a slot win. But no, they took care of business. Also, it helps that Michigan State is actually bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't like watching the highlights of this game. Mm-hmm. It did not feel good.
No.
But we got to continue.
Well, for me, it just proves that Penn State is actually for real. I kind of always had this sort of misconception that Penn State was just a fake good team, like a bad good team, a really. Yeah, really.
They play good in a couple big games, but they're not week in, week out.
And selfishly, as a Gator fan, that gives me cause for concern. So, but let's move forward to the unequivocally best team in the ACC. Clemson, I feel like they read all the articles, they heard all the podcasts, and they said, "Oh, y'all disrespecting?" Dabo said, "Bet, hold my beer."
I just cannot believe that the national media gave Clemson a reason to actually feel disrespected.
That's fighting fire with fire.
Why would you ever do that? Maybe
Smokey the Bear told us
was this
to
the
never
plan
have
all
fire.
along for Dabo Swinney? Was he like, I want us to purposely play like crap early?
I think what he did was he played bad, and then when he realized, oh, Bobby Bowden's going to be at this game, all right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and stunt. And they just decided to take care of business like normal. They said, okay, let's get back to our winning ways. Bobby Bowden's here. Let's show some respect. And then they went back to their ways. That's all it was.
I mean, ever since Trevor Lawrence threw that last pick against Louisville, he's been on fire.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
Down him at your own risk.
Moving forward, in the worst possible thing that could have happened for the Miami Dolphins subreddit, Alabama don't need Tua.
I mean, it's okay. I mean, obviously Tua is an elite college quarterback and the number one quarterback coming up in the draft. Mm-hmm. But I love how people are like, oh, Alabama might lose to Arkansas now. Like, no, come on. Like, no. But on top of that, Mac Jones is not as bad as people thought he would be.
No.
Like, he was the 3-star quarterback that got recruited to Alabama. He's not going to be terrible.
Out of where? Where did he go to school?
He went to the Bowles School in Jacksonville, Florida.
From where?
Bowles. Shut up.
No. I just meant Jacksonville. I want you to.
Bowles,
you are recording this podcast.
Is my rival high school.
It's your rival high school. Okay,
yeah, so shut up.
I thought you were going to put.
We don't talk about Mac Jones.
Oof! Yikes! All right. Jeez. All right. I guess we're going to move forward. Alabama played Arkansas, so there's not much to talk about here. Arkansas is bad. Cal. How many points did they put up against Utah?
Big old fat goose egg.
Big old none, my friend. You tweeted this. I want you to tell the listeners your tweet about the argument for MVP of this year. Go ahead, Tyler.
I think the argument, and I'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, I think the argument for MVP of this college football season, y'all will laugh, but I think Cal quarterback Chase Garbers has got to be a realistic
I'm not laughing.
Competitor. It's because when you take the literal term most valuable player, they were 4-0 contending for the Pac-12 North when he was the quarterback because they had at least a functioning offense. Mm-hmm. They have been waywardly lost.
Yeah.
Lost in the desert for 40 years.
Yeah.
Like the Hebrew people on offense.
A biblical reference. That's how you know
since he went out.
That's how you know it's bad for them. Tyler broke out the biblical references. Yikes. It's like some famine.
It's not good. It's not good. They got to figure something out.
All right, next up.
Utah's good, though.
Is Texas back?
Back to throwing picks.
Back to being bad.
Back to losing to TCU.
Back to Gary Patterson taking care of business.
In all honesty, I think that, I didn't think it was bad that Sam Ehlinger, last year said Texas were back when they won a Sugar Bowl.
10 wins.
They won a Sugar Bowl. And they played in the Big 12 Championship. Yeah, they're back.
And they beat
they're just not that good this year.
Yeah.
And, I think it's kind of poetic that TCU was wearing those weird uniforms in honor of the horned frog, the animal itself. Did you see those?
Yes, I did. Won. There were some great weird uniforms this week.
When they revealed them, the red, and it just didn't look right, but on the field it actually looked pretty good in my opinion.
It was compatible with your eyes. Another honorable mention, the Utah uniforms were really nice.
Nice. I love those.
Good. Another team who had phenomenal uniforms, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, breaking out the row the boat uniforms, and they rode
undefeated.
They rode all the way to 8-0, and I think the story from this is not necessarily the game. It is PJ Fleck and the Minnesota program fighting for College Game Day to come in 2 weeks to Minnesota against Penn State instead of going to Tuscaloosa for LSU Bama.
Look, I would usually fight on their side with this, but it's number one versus number two.
Can I play devil's advocate here?
Yes.
I want to see Minnesota and Penn State at game day. Here's my thing. Go Minnesota Penn State game day, capture that Big Ten environment, then fly my dog.
You know the words you just said? Capture that Big Ten environment. It's like trying to capture a dodo bird.
But look, then they can fly down and do the ABC primetime game, unless, maybe not, because CBS might do one of those.
No, CBS already took the LSU Bama game.
As the 3:30 or the 8?
As the 3:30. They used their 8 against Notre Dame and Georgia. But let's move on.
Okay, fine. Moving forward. Oklahoma State, finally, the thing that we've been talking about all year, where this offense is going to bite someone in the butt. They finally did it. And
they finally got someone.
Unfortunately, it was against our Iowa State Cyclones. Unfortunately, Tyler's has his head in his hands.
I'm inconsolable at this loss.
Inconsolable. They look good. The mullet had the offense flying.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to not play well, to not produce consistent offense when you have like that many NFL players on your team.
Yeah.
But they finally like Spencer Sanders when he develops in like a year or two, he's going to be a really good quarterback. But he's just inconsistent right now.
Yeah, he's young.
But you know they have all that firepower. They were going to get somebody.
And also, I'm a big fan of chaos, and this game, along with other things that happened in the Big 12, is just an agent of chaos. Love to see it. More chaos. UCLA. I'm so.
I don't get it.
I need therapy from strictly watching Chip Kelly's UCLA team.
How are you doing this?
I don't know.
They are so clearly bad, and yet they beat Arizona State.
Arguably
an unequivocally good team.
This is the worst thing that could have happened for the Pac-12 as a whole, but also we're kind of in Willie Taggart territory where Chip Kelly might be doing just enough to save his job, but we clearly know that it's not the future of that program. And of course, I misspoke because Willie Taggart is clearly the future of Florida State.
Oh yeah, contract extension, keep it forever.
Of course.
I do think that they were going to give Chip Kelly at least another year or two because it's just a long-term thing. And I mean, this is good for them. I actually would argue that this is good for the Pac-12, and I'll say why in a little bit later.
Okay.
When we talk about more of the season review as a far. It's good in a certain way for two certain teams, but we'll touch on that later.
Okay. All right.
It also makes no sense whatsoever.
At all. We'll move forward to another team, actually, contrary to that, a team that makes perfect sense, and that's the Florida State Seminoles for beating Syracuse. Let's give them a round of applause, Tyler, for taking care of business, doing what they should have at home.
Playing backyard football.
Of course. Designers and innovators of the very rarely seen double reverse flea flicker pass back to the player that threw it to you for a first down.
Avoiding a sack the entire time.
Yeah. We just want to say Florida State doing a phenomenal job. Willie Taggart needs to be given a 10-year extension at minimum.
At minimum. No, I don't even think that's enough.
No, at all. Ever. Willie Taggart is the greatest coach in Florida State football history.
Yeah. I do think that, maybe Cam Akers should, get out of there.
Yeah, there's a thing called the draft that my man should declare for.
You should declare for. I think that, I just don't think that he's that good. Around.
Tyler, you broke up a little bit. You don't think he's
talent?
You don't think?
I was making a joke that I don't think he's good enough for Florida State. I think he should move on.
Oh, wow!
So
I'll hot take because Florida State clearly is one of the best teams in the country. So I'll hot take.
Clearly.
Moving forward, another team that's I don't want to say confusing us because I think we've figured it out. Missouri at home looks like
the freaking New England Patriots.
Looks like the Patriots with a more mobile quarterback. And Missouri on the road looks like the Dolphins against the Ravens in Week 1. It's bad.
I mean, it's true, but yeah. Hey, you know what? As Florida fans, can we just give a round of applause to Kentucky and Vanderbilt the last 2 weeks? You're doing us a solid, man.
Well-respected programs that we love and hold dear to our hearts.
Yeah. Missouri they just looked lost. Mm-hmm. They looked scared and lost when they were on the road.
Right.
And it's kind of disappointing objectively because they're a very talented football team, but...
And you would think that Kelly Bryant being at quarterback and having played in so many big games in his career, that he wouldn't have that kind of glossy-eyed look and unsureness of what to do on the road, but he does. And I think last thing that speaks on the culture of Missouri, and hopefully that can get fixed for them, but selfishly as Gator fans, keep it going like
some
that.
Other time.
Yeah. And the last game we're going to talk about in Rapid Reactions, Memphis wins by literal an act of God. Literally an act of God.
Tulsa, the best 2-6 team in the nation. Mm-hmm. They had a chip shot field goal down 1 to win the game. It's 20 yards away, and he misses it with a wind, just pushes the thing net left.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I mean, Memphis is a very good team. But,
yeah, they are. But, sometimes you have adversity and you have to win. Like we talk about with the Gators, that if you're a good team, you have to win these kind of games. And they were having one of those kind of games, especially in college. And
I mean, they still put up 42 points. It's not like they played terribly. No. But sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yeah, agreed. That is our rapid reactions. Let's move forward to 5 wide in a very interesting week. Let's start with the Big 12, Big Fox noon game.
Big 10.
Big 10, sorry. Big Fox game of the week. Wisconsin traveled to the Shoe to play Ohio State, and boy, were they humbled.
Yeah.
38-7. We've talked about this. I know Kirk Herbstreit is a big advocate for this, saying that Ohio State is probably playing like the best team in the country, and they proved it, especially against the Wisconsin defense that we know to be phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal, at least so far.
Wisconsin's defense, I think, put together a good game plan early, and they were able to hold down Ohio State's offense early.
Right.
But as soon as Ohio State kind of figured out what they needed to do, they just boat raced them. This game got out of hand so quickly in the third quarter. Mm-hmm. It's like I remember a friend of the pod, Tyler Renfro, in one of our fantasy football group chats. I remember him saying something really funny where it's just like, you guys remember when it was a 3-point game about 5 minutes ago, and now it's like a 3-score game. Mm-hmm. Credit to Wisconsin. Defensively, they had a good game plan. Offensively, they just don't have the guys. They don't have the speed.
No,
they have a good offensive line. They have an okay quarterback. They have a great running back. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think they have the team speed on offense and defense that Ohio State has. And that's always been their problem, and it's going to continue to be their problem.
And as we know, team speed kills. So,
yeah.
See what I did there? Anyway.
I see what you did there.
I only saw this game in the form of highlights because we'll get in my moment of the week, we'll talk about why. But, yeah, from what I saw, it just looked like a very... Wisconsin played the way that they wanted to play in the first half. And it seemed like during halftime, Ohio State made the changes necessary in order to play the way that they wanted to play. You know, get to Justin Fields' strengths rather than having Wisconsin exploit his weaknesses, and that's exactly what happened. Ohio State won 38-7. Tyler and I both received points on that one simply because we both picked Ohio State. Moving on to the game that had the biggest impact on us over the weekend, and that was the SEC game of the week, 3:30 on CBS. Auburn traveled to Death Valley to play LSU. LSU ends up getting a close victory, 23-20. It wasn't a real close victory.
Points-wise it is, but like Auburn, I never really felt like Auburn was going to win this game.
Agreed. And it ended up 23-20. There was a late touchdown by Auburn, so really it was like two-possession game the entire game, at least towards the end of the game. I was at a football game that I'll talk about in moment of the week. And there was 2 TVs that kind of had it that I could see into like the boxes, and so I kind of had a peek of the game at times, but the score was blocked, and there was a column blocking it partly, so I could only sneak it. And from what I could tell, it looked like Auburn was in the game, but it didn't seem like they took control of their opportunities.
No, at no point. Auburn's defense played very well, as good as you can expect.
Even with the refs on LSU side.
Yeah, even with all the missed holding calls. But I think that it's just Auburn showed how you can attack Joe Burrow and the LSU offense. Yeah. You're not going to shut them out or anything like that, but they showed how you can attack it. It requires a really great defense and a healthy one at that to do that. Mm-hmm. And, Auburn's one of the best defenses in the country talent-wise. Mm-hmm. But
they were able to stop LSU at the goal line multiple times.
Yeah, but Auburn offensively just didn't have it. Bo Nix is just very inconsistent. I'm not going to go so far as to say, and I've kind of been saying this. He's a freshman. He's going to be inconsistent. He's playing in a bit of a gimmicky offense. It always has been. Yeah. I think that, given time, Bo Nix could be really good, but he is a freshman playing on the road at LSU against a talented defense, and he had some plays, but Auburn cannot generate explosive plays. That is their problem.
And we talked about that in regards to the game against us, where Anthony Schwartz wasn't really used in that game. And it seemed, I kept checking the box score during the game I was at, and it looked like they weren't using Anthony Schwartz.
He wasn't a factor.
Yeah, and that's a problem because when you have an offense that's gimmicky, when you have Gus Malzahn calling these kind of games, he needs those kind of big plays to get the offense going, to get that momentum swinging so that the defense can get off the field and have the offense control the time of possession, but that's just not what happened. LSU in the second half looked like themselves from the highlights that I saw. And when LSU's playing like that with the offense that they have, they're pretty much the best offense in the country. So they ended up winning this game 23-20. Tyler and I both get those points. Let's fast forward. Let's move over to the American Conference, where UCF kind of put their foot on Temple's throats in the second half and established their dominance, 63-21. We both get the points on this because we picked UCF. But I think the story here is just the reassurance and kind of UCF getting back to what they've been the past 2 years, which is we are hands down the best team in this conference, so they believe, and we are going to show you why, and we are not going to pull any punches. And that's exactly what happened in the second half.
I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, there was a time where this game was close. Mm-hmm. This game was legitimately close in the first half.
Yeah.
And then UCF, I think more than what you said, it's just that they are, you know, and this goes for the entire group of five. They have the most talent. They have the most speed. Mm-hmm. And they have an offense that puts those playmakers in space. Mm-hmm. And it's just incredibly difficult for other group of five teams to stop that when they have it going at the level that they need to have it going. And they showed that in the second half. They're still a really good team. They lost 2 games, but they're still a really good team.
Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate that they pretty much don't have an opportunity to be in the group the group of five representative for the New Year's Six. But listen, a conference championship is still on the table, and a good bowl outing to boost recruiting is still on the table. So still have hope, UCF fans. Season's not a waste. Moving forward to the rainiest game I've seen in a couple years, the most Big Ten thing of all time, and that was Notre Dame traveling to Ann Arbor to play Michigan, 7:30 ABC in a monsoon. Michigan dominates 45-14 because Brian Kelly, once again, inexplicably decides to throw the football an excessive amount of times in essentially Atlantis.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's this whole thing with believing when the water. It's Catholicism is a whole big thing at Notre Dame. So it's believing the baptism and stuff like that. Maybe he believed that his offense would be baptized by the rain and arise anew. But and maybe they would actually have downfield threat this time. But no.
John the Baptist is staring down at heaven at us, going, "That's not it, guys. That is not it."
Not it. Shea Patterson threw like 12 passes in this game.
Yeah, they ran like 47 of their like 60-something plays.
And they dominated.
Yeah, start to finish. Go ahead and talk about this because you called this.
I said this last week. I think that they found something in that second half against Penn State. Very similar to how Penn State found something in the 2016 season. Once it had a couple games, had about 6 games under their new offensive coordinator, they figured something out. I think Michigan's the same way. They don't have nearly the type of talented players that Penn State offense had, so they won't be nearly as explosive. But Michigan, now, they had a competent game plan. They figured something out, and they executed it. And I don't buy into this whole, Notre Dame just wasn't ready. Notre Dame was a one-loss team that had legitimate playoff competition, playoff contention ideals in their mind. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me they didn't show up for a rivalry game.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Michigan just beat them. They had a better game plan, and they out-executed.
Yeah. Jim
and
Harbaugh was the better coach.
Yeah. Harbaugh doubled his win total as against top 10 teams. He has 2 wins now.
Okay. Yeah. Slow down there, Tyler. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Last thing, what I learned in this game was to never, ever, 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 ever put my faith in Notre Dame again, because I picked Notre Dame, Tyler picked Michigan, Tyler gets the point, and it turns out to be the decisive game this week. Moving on, I'm not going to let you talk about this game anymore. Washington State at Oregon. What a phenomenal game that I unfortunately fell asleep through in the third quarter. Unfortunately,
I was praying for this game to end because I was very tired.
I was exhausted.
This game was incredible.
Yeah, 37-35, Oregon wins. Not because. Let me rephrase that. They win this game because Justin Herbert ends up kind of being the quarterback that at least whoever drafts him potentially could be drafted by the Dolphins. Hopefully I get Tua, but could end up.
I think he finally had a moment in this game.
Yeah.
And part of that is that he was put in that situation by the coaching staff that kind of infuriates me. Mm-hmm. Oregon punted at the Washington State 33, and then up. What was it? Only up 6, mm-hmm. and then Washington drives 90+ yards.
Yeah.
It was only a 4th and 4 that they were at the Washington State 33. Go for it, or if not, at least try to kick a field goal.
Yeah, do something.
But Washington State and their passing offense. Not like we know that Washington State is a great passing offense.
Mm-hmm.
They drive down the field quickly. They score after 90 plus yards. They score a touchdown. They take a 1-point lead, and with 1 minute left, Justin Herbert has to lead his team down the field. And this was the first time I've really been like, Justin Herbert, you need to go take control of this game,
mm-hmm.
and he did. And he looked calm, he looked cool, he looked collected, and he just made throw after throw.
Yeah.
He got them down. He got them to kick the game-winning field goal.
Being
put in that situation is an indictment on Oregon's coaching staff,
right.
But he finally had the moment. He played a good game. This was actually his first game in like 30 games where he did not have a passing touchdown.
Yeah, which is to say that as a quarterback, not having yes, you need to throw passing touchdowns, but at least as a game, I should say it's a game manager. The game manager aspect of being a quarterback, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Me as a Dolphin fan, it's weird that I ended up having a better perception of Herbert in a game where he didn't throw a touchdown pass, simply because, thank you, Mario Cristobal and the Oregon coaching staff, for putting him in that situation, because I got to see basically trial by fire. And what I went back when I watched the highlights, when I went back and I watched that drive, I realized not any specific throw stood out to me in that sense, but it was more his persona throughout the time. He was calm. He felt like he understood the situation. He understood how much time was left, and that to me really kind of relieved me. It for sure. Before, it was really much Tua as a number one, and all the other quarterbacks kind of take your pick. But Herbert moved up to be a solid QB2 on the board in my eyes, because of what happened at the end of this game. Yeah. And to me, I appreciate that.
Credit to Washington State. They played very well. This was just a very entertaining game.
It was.
Oregon is the last couple of weeks have kind of been, they've been kind of rounding into form offensively. They're still very much a ground-based team.
Uh-huh.
And their offensive line is really good and their running back's really good. Right. I witnessed firsthand how good CJ Verdell is in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, I'm praying that Oregon lets Justin Herbert throw the ball when the game is still on the line more, because he's good, and he's not Tua or anything, but
I hope that happens too.
I want to see them open up the playbook with him.
Yeah, I hope that happens too, because as a Dolphin fan, selfishly, because I want to see him in those situations. I want to see how he responds there. I already saw how he responded with that kind of game-winning drive to set up a field goal, but let's put him down 8 points with 4 minutes left. Let him throw the ball. Let him go there. All right.
Also, real quick, this was a big week for Oregon, because they've been put back in the playoff race.
They have.
With Oklahoma losing.
Mm-hmm.
And them as a one-loss team, and with the wins that they've had the last couple of weeks, they are now back in the playoff race.
And we'll go ahead and talk about that on Wednesday's pod when we talk about the future and playoff stuff. But for now, let's go back to our 2-point conversion. Neither of us, after like a 3 or 4 week streak of both of us getting our 2-point conversion, we both came up with blanks, and I personally, selfishly, think there should be credit given to me, because my loss definitely isn't as bad as your loss. Tyler chose South Carolina over Tennessee.
Hey, all cats are the same. All cats are the same color in the dark. We both lost. All right.
All right. Fine. South Carolina ends up losing to Tennessee 41-21, and the complete feeling on Twitter was that Will Muschamp should have spent more time prepping for this game than complaining about the refs in the Gator game. And boy, if that tea isn't piping hot.
I usually like to let the tea cool down, but I'll take it piping hot.
Oh.
I will say, you know what? Congrats to Tennessee. It took you 8 tries, but you finally beat Will Muschamp. Round of applause.
Kudos to you, Tennessee.
I saw the laughable take online that by SEC Mike that Tennessee has the best QB room in the SEC. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
He's like, with J.T. Shrout, Brian Nauer, and Jared Garantano throwing the ball like this, you could argue that they have the best 3D QB room in the SEC. And I'm like, well, off the top of my head, Alabama and Florida's is better. That's not even. It's laughable.
That is that take is like a scotch that's been in the freezer for 6 months. It is freezing cold. That is a horrible take.
I mean, congrats on a win, a good win over a talented South Carolina team.
Over a Will Muschamp defense, which we know is a well-coached defense. But what?
Yeah, I just
oh my god! All right, we're gonna move on from that because I can't even fathom that.
Move on to something else that's infuriating to you.
I'm just gonna say this once: if your name is not Tim Tebow, do not attempt a jump pass. Because Duke attempts a jump pass at the goal line in a rivalry game against North Carolina and throws an interception because, oh surprise, the ball gets thrown into 4 North Carolina defenders and the game ends right there.
The best part
is none of it. None of it is the best part, Tyler. None of it.
Is that the quarterback didn't even throw the ball. It was the running back that threw it. Quarterback hands it off, and they're trying to get cute.
And here's the thing.
And then North Carolina, the North Carolina linebacker that caught it is Chaz Surratt, a former quarterback. He wasn't even recruited to be a linebacker.
Tyler, I didn't see this yesterday. I saw the Tim Tebow. I'm gonna give credit to whoever it was, but it wasn't my own creation. But someone said if your name is not Tim Tebow or Percy Harvin, you should not be involved in a jump pass play. And I thought that was funny, but I didn't understand the context until this morning in my hotel room. I was watching ACC Now, which is like the SEC Network's equivalent of the ACC show with Dari that we love to watch Saturday nights.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the SEC Network because I'm in Virginia. I should have thought that. They didn't have it, and so I was watching it, and I saw the play, and I immediately texted you, and I was like, I just saw the way that game ended, and I want to fight everyone in that Duke football room. I'm considering driving down to North Carolina and fighting every person remotely associated with the Duke football team because that is I might fight Zion Williamson. I'm that mad. Are you kidding me? I would have gotten this and I would have cut your lead from 2 points to 1 point. But now, because I ended up losing that Michigan Notre Dame game because I'm an idiot, I end up being down 41-38. I go back down to 3 points with 4 or 5 games left in the season. I mean, I'm assuming we're doing this during the playoffs and the championship games and the bowl games, but bowl games are excluded from this. So, I need to be able to do this because I cannot have your Twitter bio say better at picking bowl games or better at picking regular season football games, college football games than my S Della ES. I can't have that, Tyler. I can't have it. I will not lose.
Picking any type of sporting event ever.
I cannot lose again. All right, I'm out. I'm done.
It must suck to be down, to not be as good as your podcast co-host.
You know what? We're just going to move on, okay? We're going to move forward. Tyler has 41 points. I have 38. I'm down 3. Next week, I will pick up some ground, Tyler. And if I don't pick up some ground, then what I need is for our wonderful listeners to email us at sidelinejudgment@gmail.com and drop some bags. Because I will read anything. Anything you want, Tyler and I will read. No bag is too small. No bag is too large.
I agree.
We don't discriminate against bag size. We do not.
Oh, we should trademark that.
We don't discriminate against bag size.
Yeah, I mean, discriminate isn't a real word.
No,
but...
Quavo said it, so technically it is.
Okay, so technically it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Alert Merriam-Webster.
Alert him. Let him know. All right, let's move forward. Typically, in a typical review week, we would start off with the Gators game, then we would do our rapid reactions 5-wide 2-point, and we would end the show here. But because this is the bye week and this is halfway through our season, we are going to go ahead and talk about the season as a whole up to this point. Now, I know we want to talk about playoff stuff and what to look forward to. We're going to do that on Wednesday after we preview Florida, Georgia, and our 5-wide 2-point from this coming week. So we will talk about all of that stuff later on. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about each individual Power 5 conference, and then we'll talk about the Group of 5 race as well at the end there. And we'll end with our moment of the week. So, Tyler, let's start in the conference that we call home, the SEC. We're going to go with each other up to this point in the season. Up to this point in the season, Tyler. Who is your MVP of the SEC?
It has to be Joe Burrow.
That's Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow.
Okay. I respect it.
I think it has to be because, like, I you could argue that it's really Joe Brady.
So that was my question. Are we having strictly are MVPs strictly players? Because my MVP was going to be Joe Brady.
I picked players, but there's no rule against it.
Okay.
I mean, okay, you can go Joe Brady, and I think that's very valid.
Okay.
But at the same time, I don't think, and this is my big question about LSU going forward that we'll ask another time, is more of like, after Joe Burrow leaves, what do you have? Mm-hmm. Because as good as this offensive system is, you need a quarterback, and I think Joe Burrow himself is playing at a level that, I mean, I have not seen this level of improvement from one year to the next in a long time.
And then there goes the question, though, is it, and we had this conversation in our fantasy football group chat, is it Joe Brady? Like, if a quarterback next year comes in and puts up similar numbers to Burrow, is it Brady that is the more important one? Or if next year a quarterback doesn't live up to the standard that Burrow put, then it's clearly Burrow. We won't know until next year is my point.
Yeah. So. But I think that I'm just like, as much as that system is a lot, Burrow is making those throws, so I'm going to go with Joe Burrow.
Okay. So you know what? I'm going to have to agree with you then. Let's stick with players, and let's go with Joe Burrow, because we can't discredit what he's done. This is basically arguing with myself from earlier today and taking your side from our conversation, because I think you're right. Yes, Brady is putting Burrow in the position, but ultimately Burrow has to make the plays. So I'm going to agree with you. Let's go Brady. Biggest surprise of the season. Tyler, who do you have so far in the SEC biggest surprise?
It feels weird, but I gotta say it's LSU again, because we're talking about LSU a lot, but I think more that's from me and you, because I really did not buy the whole LSU Joe Brady thing. Okay. I didn't buy it going in. I really didn't. Mm-hmm. I thought that they were just going to be the same team that they are every year, 9-3, 10-2 type of team. Mm-hmm. And they were going to look non-competitive against Alabama. We still haven't seen them against Alabama. We don't know. But they have looked dramatically better this year. I think that would have to be my biggest surprise. Okay. In a positive way. Mm-hmm. You could argue that Florida is the biggest surprise. Uh-huh. Not necessarily to me, because I kind of expected this. But,
we knew it was coming.
But you also have to take it, the way that Florida has been good this season is not what anyone would have expected in regards to what they've had to go through. Mm-hmm. And, like, Felipe Frank's going out, so many defensive injuries, and things like that. Okay. But I'm going to go with LSU.
I think I'm going to have to go with Missouri at home. For me, is my biggest surprise. I think at home they are playing phenomenal. Kelly Bryant is looking incredible at home. They're 5-0 at home. They're 0-3 on the road. And the numbers show the difference in there. I think Missouri at home, for me, is going to be my biggest surprise. And that's what's giving me some cause for concern when we head over to Columbia in a few weeks. That's kind of giving me a little bit of anxiety. So I'm going to go with Missouri at home as my biggest surprise. Biggest disappointment in the conference, Tyler. I think we may have the same answer, but go ahead.
Mine is Texas A&M.
Mine as well.
I really expected things from them.
It's a second-year Jimbo Fisher team.
Yeah, I really thought it's just Kellen Mond is that entire offense, and he's not clicking. They just aren't clicking.
You joked with me a couple weeks ago. You said, I think Texas A&M should start every game down 17, and then that way they would like play to the level that they could. Because it seems like that's what's happened this entire season.
Yeah, he's the greatest Kellen Mond is the greatest garbage time quarterback I've ever seen.
Which is wonderful for my fantasy team.
Oh, I mean, I no doubt. I would also say an honorable mention for biggest disappointment for me is Arkansas, just because I thought that they would be a lot better.
Really?
I thought, so the thing with Arkansas is they had two QB. Their biggest issue last year was quarterback. Uh-huh. And they on paper, it looks like they were going to fix at least that issue this year. Okay. Nick Starkel played in the SEC, was good at Texas A&M under Kevin Sumlin. Uh-huh. Ben Hicks was Chad Morris's former quarterback at SMU who put up a lot of numbers, and neither of those quarterbacks have really solved the issues that Arkansas has had. Right. So I thought Arkansas was going to be closer to a 5-7 team, and they don't look much better than the 2-10 team they were last year.
That's pretty sad to see. I'm going to give you an honorable mention as well. Jake Fromm. Because Jake Fromm, or this could be seen as the Georgia offensive coordinator, because we expected in this season to see Jake Fromm putting up. I think he was a dark horse Heisman contender. I think I said that before the season started.
You did.
And to me, Jake Fromm really hasn't lived up to that kind of standard to the point where I'm not really afraid. Granted, we talk about how, oh my God, people always say, oh, how could Georgia let Eason and Fields both leave the room? We say this all the time. Fromm is the best quarterback for this system that they run.
Yeah.
With that being said, I expected more from him, and it's kind of a disappointment.
I did too. I agree. They just not look that good.
Anything else in regards to the conference, or can we go ahead and move forward to a different one?
I mean, it's been an interesting conference in the SEC. Is that what I have really enjoyed about this year in college football as a whole, and also but specifically for the SEC, is that going into the season, a lot of people expected that it was Alabama and Georgia. They were just going to meet again, and it is not. It has at least been a 2-team race.
Okay.
In both of the divisions between Georgia and Florida in the East, and at one point Missouri. Not so much now. Because you lose to Missouri and Kentucky, I don't really see it. But and then on the other side is Alabama and LSU are the number 1 and number 2 team in the country now, and they're gunning for each other. And so I've enjoyed that there has been an actual race in both divisions.
Yeah, me too. We're gonna go ahead and move forward to the Big 12 conference. We're gonna start with our MVP of the conference. I think. Can we alternate between conferences? So, like, you went first. Okay, so I'll go first for the Big 12. My MVP is none other than Puka Williams Jr., running back out of Kansas. Granted, he only has 3 touchdowns. He only has 704 yards. But when this guy is on the field, he is the big difference for Kansas. The offense essentially just not even runs through him. It just flows through Puka Williams. And we'll talk about Kansas a little bit more later on with this conference, so I'm going to stop right there. But Puka Williams Jr. is my MVP for the Big 12 so far. What about you, Tom?
I'm going to go with another running back. I'm going to go with Chuba Hubbard.
Good call.
Because when he goes off, Oklahoma State wins.
Agreed.
And when he's corralled, they don't. And in a lot of ways, at this developmental stage of Spencer Sanders as a quarterback, Chuba Hubbard is the offense, and they're riding him into the ground. He's so explosive as a player.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be mine.
I agree. Next up is our biggest surprise, and we probably have the same one. It's got to be the Baylor Bears.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
I would say you could argue that it's Kansas, but
no.
But I think it's the level at which Baylor has been good.
Yeah, like they're undefeated. They are the only undefeated team in the Big 12. Let's say that again. In Week 9, 8-0, 7-0. Sorry, only undefeated team in the Big 12, and they find ways to win football games. You look at how Baylor's played. Like, granted, they played some scrubs in the beginning of the season, right? Their first real test was Iowa State. They end up winning 23-21. Then they go on the road to Manhattan, Kansas, where Oklahoma showed us this past Saturday. Not an easy place to win, 31-12. They end up winning, again, another close game, Texas Tech, 33-30. And then they dominate against Oklahoma State last weekend, 45-27. Their schedule coming up, Tyler, West Virginia on Halloween, Thursday night, dub. At TCU, going to give them some trouble. Oklahoma at home, clearly the game you got to circle on there. And then they got Texas at home, at Kentucky. So you're looking at probably the last 4 games of the season after West Virginia. At TCU, going to be a tough
At Kentucky
game.
Or at Kansas?
At Kansas.
Oh, boy. Baby.
We got some potential upset alert down there, but I think that's just because we are drinking all of the Kansas Kool-Aid.
So much.
But regardless, this is going to be the time where they're tested. But still, we did not expect them to go 7-0, 12 ranked in the latest AP poll. Good on you, Baylor Bears. And we have the same one, I'm assuming, right?
What?
The same biggest surprise.
Oh, yes. It's Baylor.
Wonderful. So we're moving on to the biggest disappointment. Biggest disappointment, it's got to be Texas, right? I think it's got to be Texas.
I mean, you could argue that, yeah. I would say yeah. For me, actually, I'm gonna say it's Texas Tech.
Oh, okay.
But that's more because it's a little. I understand it's a lot of it has to do with the fact that Alan Bowman is out, but Jed Duffy's playing very well. But it's that Texas Tech, of the teams that replaced their coaches in the Big 12, Texas Tech was viewed as among those teams. Kansas State, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Kansas. Those 4 teams, they were viewed as among those 4 teams as probably the most likely by everyone to have a good year. Because they were returning a lot of offensive production. Their defense has played a lot better because they have a defensive-minded head coach. They were a close team the year before, and they thought they were going to take the jump. They're 3-5 right now.
Right.
That's a little disappointing to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think they were going to be world beaters, but it's disappointing.
Yeah. I'd have to agree.
And obviously Texas is very disappointing as well.
Of course. But yeah, for me it was Texas because you look at Texas right now through 8 games, they're 5-3, not where they wanted to be. They end up actually playing a really close game, at least in the first half and throughout the whole game against Oklahoma. They lose a game against the number 1 team in the country, which they are right now, LSU, and then they scrape by Kansas last week, and then they end up Ellinger throwing 4 interceptions over against a good TCU team. So for me, just that fan base expected more, and I expected a little bit more at least, and it doesn't even look like they're going to end up in the Big 12 championship game unless things go their way, because right now they're sitting 4th in the conference.
They can't afford another loss.
They can't. No, not at all. And Tom Herman.
I just looking at their schedule, I'm just not really. I'm not really convinced that they don't have another loss in them.
Right. All right, Tyler. So, anything else to say about the Big 12? Besides
This league is wild.
Besides Kansas, because this is looking great. They are 3-5, 3-5, with 5 games remaining. They have a chance to go bowling. They have a chance.
Don't get my hopes up, okay?
Oh,
don't
okay,
do this.
Can we look at the schedule? I know we're supposed to.
Okay, fine. Let's look at the schedule.
Kansas State at home.
Possible.
Rivalry game, possible.
Yeah.
At Oklahoma State.
I very much doubt it.
At Iowa State.
I sincerely doubt it.
And then potentially playing upset against Baylor at home.
I can see that. Because if you get that far into the season, you have to wonder, is Baylor looking ahead? Because Baylor, I would imagine, would know at that point if they're in the Big 12 championship or not.
At that point,
because if Baylor is playing to go in the Big 12 championship, they're winning.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but they're going to win. But if Baylor's locked that spot up, you could argue that they would look ahead. And Kansas has everything to play for every single week.
That would mean that Baylor has locked up wins against either one or both, either 2 or 3 of TCU, Oklahoma, and Texas. So at that point, it would also be a fact of, do you really think Kansas is going to slip up? Could be, though, because,
we'll see.
You never know. So I'm hoping they pull out 3 more wins to go bowling. Come on, Jayhawks, let's go. Moving forward, Tyler, let's head out west. Let's head out to the Pac-12. Tyler, you have the first pick. Who do you think is your MVP of the Pac-12 conference?
We already talked about this. It's Chase Garbers.
It's Chase Garbers?
I honestly think so, because I think if you look at I'm taking the value of the term of the most valuable player, and Cal has been a different team since Chase Garbers got injured. And contending for they were 4-0 contending for the Pac-12 North, and now they're 4-4 with they can't even get 100 yards of offense, and they're putting up goose eggs.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Because if he stays healthy, I imagine that changes the complexion of how we view the Pac-12 North.
Okay. I agree with you, but if we were to give a secondary option, I do agree with you that he is the number 1 for your logic, but I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of Arizona State. Freshman quarterback, close to 2,000 yards so far already, 11 touchdowns on the season. You could argue that without him, this Arizona State team really doesn't put up the numbers that they've been putting up. If you go back and look at their schedule, granted, a win in Lansing against the number 18th ranked Michigan State Spartans doesn't really look as good now, and a loss against Colorado looks pretty bad now. And that loss against...
They're still a good team.
They're still a good team, though, and so for me, without him, they're not even remotely in contention, right? Right now, they're 4th
I would agree.
in the Pac-12 South, but theoretically, they could still maybe make the game. I don't know. They've lost 3 conference games already, so we'll see. But for me, it's going to be Jaden Daniels so far.
Okay.
Who's your biggest surprise, Tyler?
You could go a lot of different ways with this one. I'm going to go... This is going to be weird. I'm going to go with USC.
Oh, I was going to go with them, too.
Oh, you were going to forget?
Yes.
I was because every single week is a surprise with USC.
USC
and they're playing
is a Pandora's box.
And we all thought they would be terrible. And they're leading the Pac-12 South because they have a game up on Utah.
3rd-string quarterback, my friends.
I don't get it. You could argue another biggest surprise is Oregon State. They've been good. They've been very good under Jonathan Smith. So,
that's what I went with. I went with USC because then it's also it's. I mean, I should never say this because this is someone's job and we don't want to mess with that. But Clay Helton, watching him every week and just see how he's going to save his job is remarkable television. It's just remarkable television.
High quality content.
All right, biggest disappointment, Tyler.
You know where I'm going with
and
this.
I'm gonna go with you. We're
The
going
Washington
up to
Huskies.
Seattle, baby. Yeah.
Up to Seattle. I picked you for the playoff. I picked you for the freaking playoff. And you go out like this?
That stings, doesn't it, bro?
If Jacob Eason comes back, I might have to pick him again next year. But
I don't blame you. I don't blame you for that, man. I really don't.
But
Eason's having a good year in terms of boosting his stock.
Part of the reason they're such a disappointment is that they are, in my opinion, they are very much better than their record. Because they're 5-3 right now. They still got to play Utah. They still got to play Washington State. They've got tough games still on their schedule. But they've so clearly not lived. They've played so well, but at the same time, in many games, have not lived up to their potential.
Right.
So that's my biggest disappointment.
All right. Any other general thoughts? I think we can go ahead and move forward to the.
I actually have a thought.
Oh, give it to me.
Okay, this is something I talked about earlier. I think it is ultimately the best thing that could have happened to the Pac-12 is the fact that Utah and Oregon are starting to separate from the teams. Usually with the Pac-12, we like how competitive it all is.
Yeah.
And how
a lot of parity in Pac-12.
Yes, but it's very competitive, and what I'm glad is that it's still competitive in a lot of the areas, but Utah and Oregon have started to separate. I think UCLA beating Arizona State is actually great for Utah. It's great for the Pac-12 because it minimizes the chances that any other teams but Utah and Oregon will play in the Pac-12 championship, and the Pac-12 needs those two teams to meet up with one loss. Because at the very least, even if they don't make the playoff, they will be in contention.
Yeah.
So I think that if that can hold, that is going to dramatically help the Pac-12.
And it helps them out that their championship game is on a Friday night because all eyes are on that game, especially with the committee. So good to know.
Let's keep trudging forward.
Let's move back over to Real America, to the Big Ten. It's my turn, right? I go first?
Yes.
So my MVP is Jonathan Taylor. When you have the best running back in the country, hands down, he is literally winning them football games. Now, granted, they've had 2 games these past 2 weeks where they've struggled. One was an upset. One was against a better football team. But you could argue that without Jonathan Taylor, they don't go undefeated up until that point. They don't go 5-0. They don't go 6-0 up until that point. I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Chase Young.
Ooh, future Miami Dolphin Chase Young?
Future Miami Dolphin Chase Young. He's playing better defensive football than pretty much anyone in America.
This may be blasphemous, but you remember when Joey Bosa was tearing it up for Ohio State a few years ago, and we were talking about how this is he was hands down the best defensive player in the country? I am liking him more than Joey Bosa in college. Like Joey Bosa's best.
He's such an easy evaluation for NFL players.
Yeah, it's like
he's such an easy evaluation for NFL teams. He's he's great.
Yeah, cool. So
if he's there, draft him.
And he's great for the Dolphins because we're building our team from scratch. It's like we are literally at the point where we are drafting the best players available. You know?
Yeah.
So, good choice, good pick. Biggest surprise, it's got to be Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota. That's a big one.
It's got to be Minnesota. They are 8-0, 13th ranked team in the country, looking phenomenal. Most likely going to end up playing probably Ohio State, but we'll see how it goes in the Pac-10 championship game. Their big game.
They've got 2 games up on Wisconsin.
They got 2 games up on Wisconsin, and they still have to play Wisconsin. Granted, their remaining schedule is Penn State at home next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but the following. Iowa on the road, Northwestern on the road, and then Wisconsin at home to end the season.
Yeah, it's very possible they could lose 3 of those games.
Row that boat, baby. JP Fleck.
I mean, you could also argue that Illinois not being objectively terrible is a big surprise because I would not have seen that coming.
Yeah, agreed.
And Penn State being as good as they are is surprising.
You could also argue Indiana being one game away from being bowl eligible.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Which kind of feeds into biggest disappointment.
Yes, which for me, I think so I have 2 options here. But I think I'm gonna go with the obvious one, and that's Nebraska, because there were so much preseason hype around them.
No one's even talking about them now.
Oh, no one, and we shouldn't be because they're bad.
They're not a good football team.
Oh, they're 3-4, or they're 4-4. Sorry.
You could argue that Purdue is the other biggest disappointment. But Purdue has had so many injuries that, and I also didn't actually expect Purdue to take that much of a jump because they were losing a lot. And it just really wasn't the year for that roster. But we all expected a lot of things in Nebraska, and they are not delivering.
Well, can I give you another team that, at least maybe because I'm in the DMV area, is a disappointment, but Maryland. Maryland was expected to at least compete. Like maybe
it looked like they would for the first 2 years.
Yeah, for the first two games. Really, really good. And now it's like, show me a picture of Rutgers, show me a picture of Maryland. What's the difference? Like, I know that's a big extreme, but like, they're pretty bad, man. They're 3-5. They're fighting to just be bowl eligible. That is not what we expected from, especially from transfer Josh Jackson. And like, we did not expect that from Maryland this year. We did not expect that from Maryland. So, Tyler, anything else in regards to the Big Ten, or can we move on to our final Power 5 conference?
Let's get it to let's move over to the ACC.
All right, let's move over to Clemson and everyone else. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean the ACC. Tyler, who is your MVP for the ACC so far?
I'm gonna pick the man that everyone. I'm gonna go with Sam Howell.
Yes.
Sam Howell, the quarterback from North Carolina, is what everyone wants Bo Nix to be. Mm-hmm. Like Sam Howell is amazing that him playing as a freshman has just kind of given North Carolina so many hopes. Mm-hmm. Also, big shout out to him. He flipped from Florida State to North Carolina on signing day. Big shout out.
We love you.
Shout out Sam Howell.
We love you, Sam.
He's playing very well. He gives North Carolina a chance to win every single game.
Mm-hmm. Tyler, I'm going to kind of break the rule here that we established.
How dare you do that
at the beginning? Podcast. Because we established at the beginning. Because for my MVP is Scott Satterfield. I have to. He has Louisville at 5-3, a win away from bowl eligibility for a team that won 2 games last season. Like, this is essentially the same roster.
He's playing with the exact same quarterbacks.
He is. It's incredible what coaching can do. And shouts to him, because that man is a phenomenal coach and deserves to get the credit. So I'm going to break the rule here, and I'm going to say
he's my biggest surprise.
He's your biggest surprise. See, I was going to go. Let's go ahead and keep moving forward. Surprise. Louisville's your biggest surprise. My biggest surprise is the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. What are you talking about?
That's a good one too.
Come on, it is a downright shame that they play in the Atlantic. Petition to have them switch. Oh
my God, yes. Specifically, what they should do is that if it's a year where like Clemson. They should just have there's Clemson on one side, and in the Coastal is the Big 12.
Ah, okay.
Move all the other teams to the Big 12 and just be fight it out.
So rather than the winner of the Circle of Suck, that is the Coastal, it is whoever comes out of the Coastal can play in the championship game, unless there is a better Atlantic team. Does that make sense?
What?
Whoever comes out of the Coastal...
I was basically just proposing just a Big 12, where it's just have everybody play everybody. Clemson's clearly the best, and then the second team, get rid of the divisions.
Cool. All right.
The second best team isn't in the Coastal.
So you've thrown away the pods idea, and just...
No, not for the ACC.
Not for the ACC.
Yeah, I've thrown all these other conferences get pods, but not the ACC.
Got it. So that's your biggest surprise. Biggest disappointment, Tyler. What's yours?
I think, to me, it's Virginia. Mm-hmm. Not because Virginia's bad, they aren't. But Virginia has been given an opportunity. They had the best roster. What?
Virginia's leading the Coastal.
Yes, that's the thing. Well,
that's nothing on you. That's just an indictment on the ACC Coastal.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Virginia had a ready to compete roster, mm-hmm. and was in a down year with everybody else, and they were supposed to be the team. And they have been given every opportunity to seize control of this division, and they have failed at every moment. They're leading, yes, they probably will win it. I don't know if I'll pick it, but they probably will. Mm-hmm. But they are so clearly better than most of the teams in their division, and they have not taken control of it at all.
No.
So that's disappointing to me.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go with a school way, way, way north. That's Syracuse, because there were a lot of offensive expectations. And they just have not showed up. They're 3-5. They do not look good at all.
Big fat yikes for Syracuse. Carrier dome-sized yikes for Syracuse.
Yeah, exactly. Honorable mention, not for disappointment, but for biggest surprise. It's the success of the program and the stability of the program in Tallahassee at Florida State. Let's just a round of applause for the Florida State Seminoles. Just running their program the right way. The right model citizens for all of us.
Hashtag do something.
Hashtag do something.
They should keep Willie Taggart forever.
Of course, lifetime contract, as we say over here. No, but any other notes on the ACC before we move forward?
This conference is bad.
This conference is bad.
It was so funny because a couple of years ago, this conference was actually really good, but it's bad.
No, it's bad. Let's go ahead and move forward to the group of 5, Tyler. Let's go ahead to the group of 5. We have a few teams in the group of 5 that are really important. We have the Cincinnati Bearcats. We have the undefeated SMU Mustangs. We have Memphis. We have UCF, which suffered a couple of losses, which is still down. We have App State, which is doing some really good things. We have Boise State, who's still playing well. Only that one loss to BYU. Tyler, let's do it this way. Give me one team that has stood out. Give me 2 teams, because our answer is going to be SMU. Give me 2 teams from the group of 5 that have stood out to you. We'll count SMU, but give me another one.
SMU is the obvious one because we didn't expect them to be this good, and they're very, very good.
Very good football team.
Really shit good. I think that Boise. I want to say it's Boise State's got to be the other one because, Boise State is like this every year, but Boise State lost a 3-year starting quarterback and starting a true freshman in Hank Bachmeier. And in some ways looks better. And I think that's got to be one. Memphis is playing really well.
You still haven't said mine yet, so.
Memphis is another thing. I will say Memphis is one of the teams. I might switch it to Memphis now that I'm thinking about it. Memphis only lost 1 game, but Memphis also has. I'm gonna switch it. Memphis has this thing that they do that UCF does this with speed. Memphis, I've noticed, does this with, especially on defense, their physicality. Memphis doesn't look like your group of 5 team. If you didn't know that, you match up and you're like, they just physically, especially on the lines for a group of 5 team, they look scary.
Right.
Because group of 5 teams are not supposed to have that amount of physical talent. And Mike Norvell is building an SEC style program in Memphis. It won't ever be like an SEC level program, but I think Memphis has got to be my team.
I think for me it's the Cincinnati Bearcats. They are 6-1. Their only loss is to Ohio State. Granted, they put up a goose egg, but it was the second week of the year.
I'm not going to fault them for that.
No, I'm not going to fault them for that. For arguably the best team in the country right now. And they are dominating all their competition. They had a couple close games. First game of the season against UCLA, but close game, first game of the season. They snuck out a great victory against UCF, dominated Houston, dominated Tulsa. Yes, the score was lower, but they still played really well. And I could theoretically see them going undefeated the rest of the way through to the championship game, and I'm excited to see a potential Cincinnati SMU American Championship game. So kudos to a really good a really entertaining conference in the American. Like a really entertaining conference in the American. Navy is 6-1, unranked, but they are 6-1.
I can't believe that.
UCF.
It's quiet. People don't realize. UAB is awesome.
Yeah, UCF is.
People don't talk about it.
No, UAB is playing phenomenal in Conference USA. Also in Conference USA, playing really well. Western Kentucky is playing really well. Marshall is playing really well. I saw FAU play this past weekend. They have a great team. Louisiana Tech is playing really well in Conference USA. I watch quite a bit of Conference USA because of the FAU fandom in here, but they're doing well, man. They're doing really, really well, and it's fun to see. It's fun to see. Group of 5, a great quality
football.
Quality football is playing there.
I mean, there. It's obviously not like Alabama or LSU or Ohio State or anything, but we love football over here. We love all types of football, and it has its very own niche that we really appreciate.
And we support it every single time.
I support it.
That is it for our season review there. I know we went a little bit over what we anticipated, but this is not an every week thing that we will be doing.
Most of these will be much shorter.
Yeah,
we won't have the entire season to recap.
Exactly. But we will end this episode, as we will every single review episode, with our flagship segment, official moment of the week. I go first this week, Tyler?
Yes, you do.
I do go first. My moment of the week is traveling down to Norfolk, Virginia, and watching FAU play Old Dominion. They dominated. They won 41-3. It is the first year of their newly renovated stadium. It is beautiful in that stadium, Tyler. It is like 25 to 30,000 people, and it's just the perfect atmosphere for a mid-tier, well, this year, lower-tier group of 5 team. But it was just a great atmosphere, and everyone in the town was super nice. We were wearing FAU gear. We sat with a bunch of people. We sat next to a couple that were in their 80s. This one guy graduated from FAU in 1967. And they travel. Yeah, dude, they live in Davie in South Florida, and they have season tickets to home games. And they travel to 3 road games a year.
I mean, I'll be doing that when I'm 80.
That's what I'm saying. I'll be following the Gators when I'm 80 to do that. That'd be great. But, like, you just love to see that kind of environment. And it was a good game. You know, you get to see them up close. I got to see FAU. I got to spend watching an FAU game with my parents for the first time.
They dominated.
Dominated the game. Chris Robinson left at halftime. He took a nasty hit. It was right in front of us. And I told Raul right away, I was like, that's either a head injury or he got the wind knocked out of him. Raul said he got the wind knocked out of him. I said head injury. They didn't play him the rest of the game just out of precaution because they were up like 24-3 at half. And there was no way they were coming back from that. So a good football game, a good time. Love to watch college football. What about you, Tyler? What was your moment of the week?
Mine's not nearly as cool as going to like an away game or anything. I just saw something really funny on a broadcast when Notre Dame scored one of its 2 touchdowns against Michigan. It was a throwback pass to the tight end, and all the Michigan fans threw towels onto the field, and one of them landed right on the guy's helmet as he's celebrating, and the other one landed on top of the camera that was filming it. Jim Harbaugh, sign those people.
Seriously, man. If Patterson goes down, you need some more people. You need some more quarterbacks.
Laughed.
Scout team quarterbacks. Always needed.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. All right, those were our moments of the week. Come and join us on Wednesday where we'll preview specifically Florida-Georgia, why it is disrespectful that Georgia is a 6.5-point favorite. I saw it on one of the casinos as a 6.5 points, Tyler. I didn't tell you. Why that's disrespectful. We'll preview, we'll pick our 5 wide and our 2 points for this coming week, and then we'll give you some kind of predictions that we have for the rest of the season, simply because it is that bye week and we are able to give you those things. Remember, there are 2 episodes a week from now on throughout the season. 2 episodes a week, a review episode dropping on Mondays and a preview episode dropping on Wednesdays. So more sideline judgment for you. It makes Tyler and I happier. Episodes are more condensed this week, sans, because we have a whole season to review and preview. But in the future, they will be that way, and going forward for years and years to come. That has been another wonderful episode of Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And we are not biased, but go Gators.
Go freaking Gators.